Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Avalon and this is Nurse in the Garden. Today is going to be somewhat of a chore day. I don't know if most of you guys know I work full-time, so I don't stay home to take care of my garden or have that ability to work from home. So during the week I just kind of oversee things and I try to get a good understanding of what's going on and what I need to do when I have a day off or when the weekend comes. So I live in New York, zone 7B, and the weather here has been very temperamental. I think if you guys have been on my channel for a while, you would hear me say that over and over again, that the weather just really hasn't settled out. And it's been a little bit stressful for some of the plants, and then also from like my timing for putting out some of the plants, whereas they're not really thriving as I would have liked them to be. But either way, the last probably week and a half, the weather has been pretty good, so that, you know, the garden has been, some of the plants have been really flourishing and growing, especially my tomatoes. And we also had some rain, which was really good. That helped us tremendously. Either way, today what I want to do is just kind of take you guys along for some of the chores that I have to do that has been absolutely nagging me, and I want to get started. I actually have a to-do list because honestly, if I don't have this, I will get distracted and do something else, and I won't do all the things I need to do for the day. So let me just tell you guys some of the things I need to do. I need to prune my tomatoes. I have a shishito plant that I started pretty late because I forgot to start it, and I need to actually put that in a pot. My mulch, I know you guys saw that I had put down the mulch. I need to actually moisten some more to put in some other areas. I need to put down some bone meal for my onions. Let's see, I need to move some of my plants because where I wanted some flowers to be, some of the flowers are way larger than, I didn't even realize the flowers grew that big. So I actually need to move some things because it's shading those other plants. And then try to trellis, put my trellises up. I have some trellises that I need to put up, but I do have some other odds and ends to do, but that's like really on the top of my list right now as far as like the garden is concerned. And I'm gonna take you guys along with me. So as far as the tomatoes, I'm going to prune a lot of the suckers off, and I'm going to kind of go through what type of tomatoes I have and explain the differences between determinate and indeterminate tomato plants, which honestly took me forever to understand. I have no idea why. It just took me forever to understand that concept, but I finally understand it now, and it just makes so much sense. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. What in the world is that growing over there? I'm sorry, I got distracted. I think it's like weeds or something. Either way, yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and get started, and I hope you enjoy this video and stick along to the end. All right, so if you guys saw my last video, I believe it was, where I planted out all my tomatoes, I mean, this is a big difference to what it was looking like when I first planted everything out. It is really bushed out. It's looking really great. I think the only thing I'm dealing with is just a few aphids, which really isn't doing like much of any sort of damage. It's just more annoying to see them, and I just kind of blast them off with water if I see them. And I'm hoping that the ladybug larva that I saw like a couple of weeks ago, not even like a week ago, that they actually come and take care of this. That would be really great. But really quick, I want to go through what type of tomatoes I have and what I will be doing with each of them, and then take you in to show you what I am doing as far as pruning. So I have both determinate tomatoes and indeterminate tomatoes. Determinate tomatoes are tomato plants that grow only to a determined size. Okay, they're most likely a bush variety, and they grow to a size and they stop growing. With those type of plants, you do not want to prune off any of the suckers. You would probably want to prune off like the lower leaves, like just the leaf growth, not the leaves that have tomatoes on them or like the suckers and things like that. The reason being is that those plants produce a certain amount of tomatoes, and that is it, and then they stop producing. If you cut off the suckers, if you do anything like that, what would happen? You would get less harvest, okay? So those are determinate tomatoes. I only have 2 of those, and those are my Roma plants. So I already know what I'm gonna do with those. There's some lower leaves that I need to cut off just for more airflow. And I'm just gonna focus on the leaf growth, not the suckers. As far as indeterminate plants, that's where it's a bit different. Excuse me. The indeterminate tomatoes grow to an indeterminate size, meaning they keep growing, they keep growing, they keep producing, they keep growing, they keep producing. Those are like my cherry tomatoes, my brandywines, and a lot of the beefsteak, and a lot of like the heirloom tomatoes that I have. Those tomatoes will keep on producing and get taller and taller and taller. And last summer I had like a forest. My son was actually reminding me, he's like, "Mommy, remember last year it was a forest back here?" I was like, "I know." So those tomatoes, you can take off the suckers, because the plant would just say, "Oh, you just need more of me? Okay, fine," and keep growing, get taller and bushier and taller and taller and taller. And that's the difference. So with my indeterminate plants, I'm going to prune off the suckers. I'm going to prune off any lower leaves for more airflow. And then I actually plan on keeping some of the suckers, probably just one plant. And I'm going to make that decision as I'm cutting which plant I'm going to keep to actually replant in a different area of the garden. Because once I take out my garlic, I'm going to have some more extra room to plant something else, which is really exciting. So I think I'm going to be able to like multiply the harvest of one of my plants. So that's really nice. So let's get started on pruning. Okay, so I took you guys a little bit lower and further in just for you to see what I'm doing, and hopefully you guys can actually understand what I mean as far as the suckers and what I mean as far as the lower leaves and just general leaf growth. Okay, so this plant right here is my sun gold. So this one right here is a indeterminate plant, which means that I can cut off the suckers. I can cut off a lot of that leaf growth, and I know that nothing will stop this plant from producing more and more and more. So I just went ahead and trellised it a little bit more because it grew a lot and it was leaning over. Just be mindful when you are pruning plants. You want to just make sure you have a clean set of pruners. And between every plant, this is alcohol in here. I like to spray my pruners, and then I wipe off my pruners in between to not transfer any diseases that may be on one plant to the other. So before I get started, I'm going to go ahead and clean off my pruners. And now we'll take a look to see what we have. So starting from the bottom, I can already see that I have some lower leaf growth that I really don't want, because you really don't want the leaves too low to the bottom, touching the soil, bringing up any sort of diseases. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off this lower leaf, right? So now I have a ton of lower leaf growth. This would have potentially turned into a new tomato plant. I could always cut off this lower leaf and put this in water and it will grow a new plant, but I don't want this. I'm now going to go ahead and take a look here. I don't know if you guys can really see. I really hope you can. What happens here, there's this growth, this stem, then there's a leaf here, and as we go up, there's this growth right here, and then we see that there's more growth going up. This right here is called a sucker. What goes on is that this is a 90-degree angle. This comes out right in the middle of that. So they call this sort of like the armpit of that part of that portion of the plant. I could always keep this and then again make this into a new tomato plant. I can always go ahead and say I could keep it as well, make the plant bushier, more growth. But granted, I don't have a lot of space in this area. Everything is by the square foot method, so it's about 12 feet apart. I don't have a lot of space to say let's keep everything bushy. I know that this plant will produce and produce and produce, so I know I'm safe enough to cut it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that sucker, and you would see, right, after I cut this part right here, how much airflow and difference this plant is going to look. Okay, so I just cut this off, and now I have my primary stem going up, a leaf, and as I'm watching, right, and looking, I see that this is a leaf, this is a leaf. I can go ahead and cut more leaves, but right now I feel pretty good with this plant, and it really opens up this area. It looks so good. All right. Okay. So this next plant here is my Roma. Remember, my Roma plants are now determinate plants. And usually, and if you're ever confused about, oh my gosh, is this a determinate? Is this an indeterminate plant? The seed packets usually tell you. And then once you understand the concept of determinate to indeterminate, it makes things so much easier. Okay, so we're just gonna go ahead and take a look and see what we can cut from our indeterminate. I'm sorry, excuse me, from our determinate plant. All right, so I have, as you can see, flowers already, which is really great. I have a few clusters already happening, but one thing that does concern me is that there's a lot of lower leaves at the bottom that are touching the soil, and that can bring in, again, diseases that I do not want for my plant, and it would take out my plant, right? It would kill my plant sooner than I would like it to, before I get a harvest. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna look at the bottom and I'm gonna see what leaves are touching the bottom and which are only leaf growth. So I'm gonna start all the way, hope you guys can see that. There's some leaves down here. I'm gonna snip, snip. It's gonna take off a lot of the leaf growth. It's going to help the airflow. Again, this is just a leaf, nothing with growth on it as far as fruits. I'm gonna look at this leaf right here. This looks like it's only just leaf growth. I'm just gonna keep looking and just carefully prune, right? Just the bottom leaves, just the ones that are touching the soil, just the ones that are leaf growth, so I know that I'm only doing that. I'm just taking my time. It's gonna clear up a lot of the bottom things that are touching the soil. All right, so let's see. Now I really like the way this looks. There's no bottom leaves touching the ground. This is only leaf growth, and that is it. I'm not gonna touch this plant anymore. As you can see, there are some leaves at the bottom here. There's this one, but I'm actually waiting to see if that is going to produce any flowers. This looks like that might produce some flowers. And then I ended up cutting off a leaf, but then also seeing a sucker which had, and it's this leaf right here that actually had a leaf growing out the side, but I didn't need that leaf. So, and it was actually looking a little bit brown, so I decided to cut it. And now I have so much more airflow. I actually see like an acorn or something growing from the ground. Okay. Now it just looks a lot better at the bottom and it could do its thing. So now I'm just gonna continue going, and I'll probably show you guys one more indeterminate so you guys can get a better understanding of what that looks like. All right, so this one right here is a cherry tomato again. This is my red cherry. Again, I'm gonna look from the bottom and see what leaves I can cut off. What leaves are looking a little bit sickly. So this leaf doesn't look that good to me. I'm gonna cut it off. And I'm also gonna cut off this sucker. It was in an armpit of a leaf growth. And then this sucker was coming out of that armpit. Let's look at another one. We have the main stem. We have a leaf growth. The main stem continues, but then look right here, right coming out of that armpit is a sucker. Now I can go ahead and actually clip my plants. And I got these clips from Dollar Tree. They're pretty good. Sometimes they break, but I like them. All right, I could go ahead and clip, take that out, and I can watch how this plant grows, and I could always decide to come back and say, I can go ahead and prune this off after, but look what happens. I just clipped it on. This is my main stem. I just clipped it on, but look, This is now hanging off right here. What's going to start happening, this will start coming down because of heavy fruit growth, and then I don't have another stake to stake it to make sure that this is now stabilized. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut off that sucker. Now I have a leaf, right? I might actually cut this leaf off because look at it, it's a little bit brown at the end. So now I just have my main stem. Now everything looks super clean, right? I still actually have this plant to do, and again, I'm just going to cut the lower leaves and the growth. This is my determinate Roma. This was an indeterminate plant. You can see what the difference of a determinate, determinate, indeterminate, and what that looks like after I prune everything. I want to keep the suckers with my determinate plant. I want all of the tomatoes that this plant can produce. My indeterminate, I know I'm going to get plants no matter what I do with this. I know I'm going to get fruit, no matter what I do with this, because it's going to continue to grow and stimulate to know that it needs to grow some more. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep cutting, and I'll take you guys along for that. Okay guys, so I did some stuff off camera just because in the middle it's kind of hard to see what I'm doing. But I ended up cutting off this Cherokee Purple and I cut off this Belgium. I think I'm going to keep my Cherokee Purple. I think I want more of these than the giant Belgium plant, but you'll see what I'm going to do here. So this is a sucker I just cut off. See how huge it is? And I'm just going to cut the bottom leaves off and then stick this into some water. I could even cut this leaf off, but I'll leave it for now. And I have a jar of water with me right now that I'm just going to plop that in there so it could stay alive, and I'm going to see if it grows some roots. Okay, so now I'm just gonna put the trellis. I'm planning on just putting this long trellis right where my cucumbers are going to be. I'm gonna trellis them so that I don't have to put any stakes or anything in this area. My nasturtium is getting nice and big, so happy. I'm gonna let it trail down, but I'm gonna go ahead, actually, let me adjust this just a little bit. I'm gonna do it the other way. Alright, so let's see how that works. I was actually able to do the same thing last year, so it should be fine. Make sure it's stabilized, and I think we are good. Alright, not too bad. Just the ends. I'm just gonna curl it in a bit over here, just so it doesn't hook onto anything. Yeah. And for my squash, I am considering, sorry for the background noise, for my squash I'm considering getting like the tall trellis, like the round tomato cages for these. We'll see. Okay guys, so I'm trying to allow you guys to see. So these are my red onions I planted, and I'm honestly thinking I bought the wrong variety as far as long day, short day, and all that jazz. So what I want to do today is actually, sorry, I'm like seeing things too. I think I have some leaf miners in my beets. Gotta get those out, or they take over every single leaf. All right. So what I want to go ahead and do is put some bone meal. It says to put 1 teaspoon of bone meal per bulb. I think what I might end up doing is, right, so this little cup has a teaspoon, and I'm just going to kind of sprinkle it throughout and massage it into the soil and see if that maybe helps it with the bulbing. But I really think I bought the wrong variety because it really hasn't done much. It's done a little, but not like as much as like another onion that I planted. And for the second year in the row, I have somehow also marked my marked my labels wrong. I'm gonna go ahead and just measure it out. It's too much. Let's see. Okay. So that's about that. I don't know if you guys can see, but I'm just gonna go ahead and sprinkle it in, and then I'm gonna water it in after. But I really don't think these red onions are gonna do anything, to be honest with you. But it never hurts to try to see if I can help give it a boost. So I'm just gonna massage it in. Guys, on a separate note, here in New York, we are practically under invasion because we have the spotted lanternfly here in our area. The first time I ever saw it was like, I think 2 years ago when we went to PA, and we saw this big colorful bug. I saw it on like my friend's back and I freaked out. Then we saw it everywhere, right, as we were going through PA. Anyway, long story short, I am seeing them everywhere here in New York. First time I saw them was in New York last year as well, and they're getting bigger, they're getting faster, they jump. It's like freaking me out. It's making my blood crawl. I could barely even stand it, and they're on my plants. And the issue with them is that they will decimate your crops. So it's just scary to know that there's this like invasive species from, I think from China, that is taking over. And I just don't even know what I'm gonna do because they get bigger and disgusting, and I really don't know. But anyway, that's just a side note. So anyway, I put the bulbs in, I put the bone meal in, and I'm gonna go ahead and put some more bone meal over in another area where I have onions as well. And so these onions over here are actually doing really well. So I'm just gonna sprinkle some of the bone meal. I think this one has a weed around it. Yeah, I'm just gonna sprinkle around all of the bulbs. As you can see, these onions are doing way better. Again, I'm not even sure of the variety because the name was messed up on my winter sowing bottle, and to be honest, I have no idea what onions these are. So it'll just be interesting to see what grows, and maybe I could try to figure out what onions these are. But all I know, it seems like I have success with one set compared to another set of onions. And guys, honestly, so I was talking about the spotted lanternfly. I don't know if anyone else on the Northeast is dealing with them, but it's like I'm already scared of bugs and jumpy, and to now have these things that actually jump really fast is freaking me out. And I'm already like covered head to toe when I'm out here now to like be even more afraid. You can't even kill them fast enough because they take forever to die. And you know, that is actually what is recommended by our extension agency, I believe, or like the agriculture agency, is to kill them on site. So I've been trying, but guys, all in all, I'm not gonna let them win. That's all I'm gonna tell you. All right, so I put my bone meal down. I'm gonna go ahead and water these in. All right, so this bed is my soon-to-be flower bed, and things are sprouting, things are looking good. I don't know if you guys can see, I have some ranunculus back here that's still blooming, doing its thing. But this plant right here is called Nicotania, and the picture did not make it seem like it was this big. And I have some holy basil that's planted around it. And what I want to do is just go ahead and pop it up. So this is my holy basil. I actually have one more over here, and I want to pop that up. And I actually might plant one of these in my containers. I was trying to make this kind of like a herb flower area, but I don't think I'll be able to do that. Then I have these African daisies here in the front that these are trying to also take over. But yeah, and I have a lot of like slug issues as well over here. So I did put down some sluggo, which is helping. And then I have some zinnias that I actually started indoors because the zinnias that I started here were eaten by slugs. So I'm waiting for the zinnias to kind of catch up, and then I'll plant them out, let them get a bit mature. Once actually the weather starts getting really hot, my ranunculus is gonna die back. I will harvest the corms. I'll take you guys with me for that, but then I'll be able to put more flowers in this area. So that's the plan. So I think what I'm going to do with this holy basil is possibly just plant it on the opposite side. Let's see. have a good space. Oh, I think I'll just plant, I think, guys, I'm having some trouble to figure out where I should plant this. I think I'll just plant one in my container and another, I'll just plant this one here. Very soon these garlics are gonna come out, and then I'll be able to plant. I have some peppers that I bought because I wanted some yellow and red peppers that I didn't grow. So I'm gonna plant one there. You guys probably didn't see that. And then I'm gonna go over to my container area and actually plant out my shishito pepper next. All right, so right here I have my other holy basil. You know, I really didn't want to crowd anything, but now I'm just like, well, that Nicotiana is actually taking over that area, really crowding it out. So I'm just gonna plant this in there. This plant actually looks really good. Beautiful leaves. So we'll see how that goes, and I'll water that in a minute. So one of the last things that I really want to do right now, because my mulch is going to take some time to absorb that water, and as I told you guys, I'm getting a little bit skeevy out here, so I kind of want to minimize everything that I do at this time. So this celery plant is looking a bit stressed out. It's being kind of like a host plant to some caterpillar, which I feel really bad about taking out, but I also need to plant out my shishito pepper, and right now that this plant is struggling, I've taken off old leaves multiple times, and poor looking leaves just keep growing back. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to dig this up and out. It's really rooted itself nicely, but it has some baby caterpillars on it, which I would have kept if I had more space. What I'm just actually gonna do is I have like some bushes, and I'm just gonna like throw it back there so it could still do its thing. Beautiful. And it could decompose back there, and I won't disturb those little caterpillars that are trying to live their best life. So this is my little shishito plant. I'm putting it in a container because I figure, you know, it's more so just for fun, not so much for a ton of production. So I'm gonna pop it out and watch it grow. I actually have some compost that I want to put as well. I'm gonna go get some compost. Some mushroom compost here. Got some bugs because this compost has been sitting there for a while. So I'm just gonna top it with the mushroom compost and then put back the mulch and everything else around it. And there we go. My shishito plant is planted. And again, I'm just gonna go ahead and water that in, and we will be done. I hope everyone enjoyed my video today. Thank you for coming along. I hope you learned something about tomatoes that you didn't know from before. And I will see you guys on the next video. Hopefully a June tour is coming next. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.